Hey everybody, HeadspaceConnections back with another video. Again, going to be a little more on the lines of scientific as opposed to personal. This time we're going to be talking about trauma and how it actually affects the brain. This isn't necessarily talking about just DID in general or anything like that. This is going to be more along the lines of the trauma spectrum and how it causes the brain to react so drastically. Now, with PTSD, CPTSD, and things like that, OSDD, BPD, and DID, all of those, and all the disorders in between are all trauma-based disorders. Now, what I guess some people may not realize about trauma disorders in general, and for those of you that want to learn more, highly recommend reading a book called The Body Keeps the Score. I cannot remember who the author is at the top of my head, but I will post a link in this video to show where you guys can find it. I got mine off Amazon and it was fairly cheap, so for those of you that would be interested, you can click on the link, buy the book, get it on Kindle version. I recommend it. It is a little more scientific, so you do have to kind of really pay attention to what's being said. But overall, I thought it was a good read. We thought it was a good read. Thomas loved it. It was just right up his alley. But anyway, as we were talking about with trauma, when somebody undergoes a traumatic experience, whether it is in childhood or in adulthood, what basically happens is when that experience becomes so much that the brain cannot handle it, what it will do is it will, and sometimes this can happen with some people and sometimes not, but basically what the brain will do is it will take that traumatic experience and will put it in, I guess you could say, like a set file, but it will put it into the back of the filing cabinet. Now, but here's the problem with this. When that happens, that experience or that whole situation does not get properly processed as a memory. So this is where you're going to find where your PTSD patients and CPTSD patients start to have their flashbacks, is because something will cause or trigger that response from something that puts them back into that traumatic experience that got shoved to the back of the filing cabinet. Well, when that happens and somebody gets triggered, that file comes right up to the front. And when that happens, that's when you get your flashbacks. Now, the problem with this, because some people say, well, why can't you just let it go? Why can't you just, learn to get past it? The reason being that you can't just let it go or that you can't get past it is because that experience has not been turned into a complete memory. And because it has not been turned into a complete memory yet, that the brain has officially processed and said, okay, this is done, moving on to the next one. Because every time the brain tries to process that memory or that experience, it goes back into reliving it. So every time you have a flashback of whatever experience or traumatic experience that you have, you basically, your body and your nervous system literally believes it is reliving it. So when the body is trying to process that and it can't, automatically the brain is like, okay, this is too much. We're not going to worry about this. We're going to send it back to the back of the filing cabinet. So that experience never actually gets processed as a memory, and you can't get over that because the brain won't let it. And when you go into those memories and things like that, with somebody that has already had trauma and they have PTSD, CPTSD, basically what it is that their brain is completely rewired now for survival. So anything that triggers that experience, anything that sets off those flashbacks, it's going to start setting off the brain's or the nervous system's alarms, and everything's going to start going off. Basically, like it was when you were enduring that traumatic experience. You can't just get over or get past something if you don't completely process it. So while that experience is still unprocessed, that's where you get your problems, because as soon as the brain sees it and experiences it, the alarm systems go off, the nervous system goes on overload and completely freaks out. So for those of you that know people with PTSD or CPTSD or any kind of trauma disorder, please be understanding in the fact it is not that simple to get over or get past. I know flashbacks and things can be very distressing. It can be very frustrating for you, but think of what it's like to actually be the person having to go through it. I mean, no matter the situation or what the traumatic experiences was, as long as it's unprocessed, they basically relive the same experience over and over and over again. And that can be horrendous. It's detrimental to your mental health, going through those same experiences all over again. Now, with that being said, can that be helped? Can the brain be unwired and rewired to function properly like it used to before? Yes, it can. However, that takes trauma therapy, trauma processing. EMDR is one treatment. I think one of them is an internal family stabilization type that you're going to find more with BPD, OSDD, and other patients like that, but it is still an effective treatment. And the list goes on of other trauma treatments that are available. But the only way that those flashbacks and those experiences and those traumatic memories can go, maybe not necessarily go away, but be less harrowing and traumatic all over again, is if they get processed into said memories. Once you can get the brain to slowly process those memories or those experiences and turn them into said memories, that is where you're going to be able to kind of start being able to get over it, so to speak. But the process is not simple by any means, and it takes a lot of trial and error before you can find a treatment that's going to work for you. Now, medications won't fix it. They can help with other comorbid disorders that you can get with it, like anxiety and depression and things like that, but they are not a cure-all. They will not fix the problem, the root cause of the problem, and that is going to take therapy, trauma therapy, and processing in order to be able to get over those said memories or experiences, so to speak. And I just wanted to say this because we thought it was appropriate, because you find a lot of people that try to be helpful, and they say, well, just let it go, just move on, or things like that. It's not that simple, because by that point, it's not something that meds or just getting over can fix. It is literally a a nervous system issue. And it's something that can only be fixed through about as much work as it took to get that traumatic experience to begin with. And to be able to actually get over those traumatic memories can take a lot of time and a lot of work. And it can be physically draining, emotionally draining, mentally draining. It's just not that simple. And for those of you that do have PTSD, that do suffer from flashbacks, because we have DID, we have CPTSD, and and the list goes on. We know what it feels like. We know what you're going through, and we know that usually the people that end up in therapy or go to therapy is because of the ones that don't want to go to therapy even though they need it. So we understand the struggle. We know what you go through because we've gone through it too, and we still have some things that we need to work on processing ourselves. But however, you can work through it. You can eventually get over it to where those flashbacks and those things don't control your life anymore like they may have previously, or if they do now. But we do recommend, if you can, and if you do suffer from it, find a therapist that does trauma processing. You will not believe, once you get over that initial bump, how helpful it can be for your sanity and for just everything else. I know therapy is like a big taboo. It does not have to be. Quite frankly, what everyone else believes is their problem. You do what you need to do to help yourself, to be able to live, to be able to manage your life, and to be able to be happy and, be able to live a normal life, as much of a normal life as you can. So for those of you that do suffer from them, we feel you, we know, and it's not easy by any means, but it is possible and you can do it. Sorry, I think I have somebody from the back getting a little emotional. Sorry, we're gonna go ahead and stop the video there because we really don't have much more to say on it. But anyway, this was our video for trauma and how trauma processing. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any concerns, comments, or anything like that, feel free to comment below. And if we may have gotten our information skewed or anything, feel free to let us know. We do not mind. We want to be as accurate as possible. So yeah, feel free to let us know. If you like what we do, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll be able to know when we do another video. And yeah, that's basically it. Oh, and for those of you that don't know, we do have a Tumblr, a Pinterest, and an Instagram that we are fairly active on. Goes by the same name as HeadspaceConnections. And if you feel like, follow us on there too. And you'll be able to get notified. If you don't have your notifications on for YouTube, you'll know when we have our next video. Mostly if you follow us on Instagram though. But anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope it was helpful and insightful. And we will see you guys next time. All right, bye.